Welcome to the channel for the first time viewers. Welcome back from my existing subscribers. So just want to sit back, chat, chill with y'all for a little bit, give y'all some of my thoughts about what's been going on in this PC gaming hardware. I made a video. I don't know which one's going to go up first, whether this is going to go up first or whether the CPU opinion between the 9950X3D, 9800X3D, and 14900K, 13900K, 14900KS, which one I think everybody should get. But essentially in the PC marketplace, it's kind of in a wild place right now. It's in a wild space. So GPU prices have definitely, they're starting to come back down. So for the third or fourth time, I've seen the TUF on Newegg for $27.49. Now, if it was $25.49, then we're cooking, because that's what it was. It was about, actually, I think it was like $24.50 on the first day. Those prices went away so quick though, and only like the Gigabyte WindForce. It wasn't even the gaming. It was like the most bare bone Gigabyte card. The 5090 stayed at $19.99. The PNY and like two other models stayed at $19.99, but they were never in stock to begin with. The scalpers have finally started to ease up and give up. So now it's only the most desirable the most desirable models that are getting scalped and picked up. So I like to see that, because again, those people that have been saving up, those people that are sitting on their 4090 money, they can finally go out and get a card. Unfortunately, the MSRP is a little high, but there was really no opportunity this time around to, because the first, like, normally you can get a scalp one for a decent price, but this time around it was just so crazy. Like, even the scalp ones, a good price on those was like $3,800. And then it pretty much, once they saw they were selling on launch day, like things like the Astral was over for like $6,500. The FEs were going, launch day was a crazy time. It was just, it was obscene. It was obscene numbers that these things were going for. But again, it's in a crazy place as far as we keep getting rehashed hardware, right? I feel like every time we get a new generation nowadays, I feel like it doesn't really surpass the performance of the previous generation. Like, if you bought a 2080 Ti, somehow this card is still going to be not mid-tier, but right, bump it up into mid-tier today. But that card came out in like what? If I think back to it, the 2080, it was like 2018, I think, when that card came out. So it's been it's almost 10 years. Give it a couple more. Going on what? That's 7 years. So you bought that card for, if you really got it on a good deal, you got it for $1,000. And the new cards today still aren't really blowing it out of the water like that. They've resorted to like new tricks and, adding some features on the GPU hardware that will help with software tricks versus just more rasterization and more raw performance. And that was what was really disappointing about the 5060. I think if the 5060 performed like I'd say a 4070, 4070 would be good. If it performed like a 4070, it had 12 gigs of RAM or VRAM, then that would be a pretty decent product. Even if they made it a little bit more expensive, just a little bit, not too much, because it really should be an entry-level card. I remember the 1060 had the 3 gig model, which was actually slower than the 6 gig model. And most pre-builts either came with a GTX 1060 3 gig, or they came with the RX 580 4 gig. I don't remember what was going on back in 2018, because that's when I first got into PC gaming, but there was definitely something. I don't know if it was mining, but you couldn't get a GPU. You couldn't get a loose GPU. The best way to get one was to pretty much buy a whole pre-built tower. And that's what was coming with them at the time. And like I said, today you see cards that they're like weaving in, like, look at the hardware unbox videos, right? You'll see the middle section is like all within 5 to 10 FPS of each other. Like, you have two cards at the top, which is like the 80 class cards. You have like the 5080, 5090. You might have like the top two AMD cards, but the whole middle stacks, like the 6700, the 7700, the 7800 XT, the 6800 XT, like everything is like in a cluster together. And really the only difference that has changed has been software, right? Some have better software tricks. DLSS is locked behind the NVIDIA cards, and then certain features are locked behind, RX 7000. So granted, the 9070 XT is still a really good card. I think for the price, it's pretty much a repackaged and discounted 7900 XT, XTX, not XT, but XTX. There's some cases where it's a little faster. Ray tracing seems to be a lot better, in my opinion. I don't do the path tracing. I barely do ray tracing unless it's like a game where it significantly makes a visual improvement and it's an offline story game or something like that. Then I'll try to go with max settings. But if it's not that, then I kind of just run for higher frame rate. Once I get to 90 on a campaign or a story game, I'm happy. So 90 is kind of like my bar, but it needs to be 90 native. FSR4 and DLSS4 look really, really good. But again, I feel like developers are leaning in on the upscaling a lot more now, whereas it used to be, before it was like they would achieve at least 60 FPS, right? And you have games like Monster Hunter World where, you can use DLSS and you still get like 77 FPS, right? So I don't know. I feel like the place that we're in is kind of forcing people towards $1,000 graphics cards for playable experiences. The PS5 Pro is $650, really $700, but they've been discounting it left, right, and center because, times is tough. And then you have the Nintendo Switch, which upped their graphics a little bit, which I've seen mixed reviews. It's weird. People are saying that the Switch 2 is not good. You shouldn't get it. It's terrible. And then in the meantime, I think in the real world, it's breaking records. So yeah, I think you have like YouTubers speak, and then people that are like, oh yeah, the Switch 2. Yeah, I'll buy that. So I think that's the real world people. And maybe I'm speaking to like more of the YouTube sphere of things, because somebody who doesn't really get a lot of graphics cards or who skips a lot of generations, like if your last card was a GTX 1080 and you go out and you buy a 5080, then you just pretty much went from a hoopty by today's standards to a rocket ship, right? Like you got a crazy big jump, provided you have a CPU to push it. And even if you don't, and you're playing at 4K or something like that, you're still going to see a performance increase. So maybe that's the real market, and who I think is buying these cards is not really who's buying these cards. But yeah, overall, I feel like, again, the PC space is in a weird spot. I miss having gen-on-gen rasterization improvements. I will say, though, to give credit where credit's due, if you overclock a card like the 5070 Ti, the 5080 or the 5090, you're going to have some really, really good gains, because the 4080 Super, which they didn't even compare the 5080 to the 4080 Super, they did it to the 4080, I think it was, because it was even smaller of a gap. But for the 4080 or 4080 Super to the 5080 I don't want to say it's negligible, but it's not worth spending a brand new $1,000. But if you overclock that 5080, then now you see that gap, that performance gap start to grow. And then it warrants maybe looking at it, maybe selling your old one, picking up a new one, and then getting all those new software features that I just said are terrible. But if that's something that you like, then it's something that you like, right? So then it makes it more worth it, because before it's like, do I really want to get almost the same performance, right? But just go out and spend money for it. So kind of waste my money. And I think that's where we're kind of headed. So I think there's going to be a 2-card system. I think AMD is going to have their flagship. There's already rumors that it's going to be like a 10900 XT or a 9800. I don't know. Just all these different cards that they're talking about. But I think AMD is going to have their flagship. NVIDIA is going to have their flagship. Intel is still going to be trying to figure out how they're going to take market share. Although what is it, the B80 or the B580? Apparently that was selling pretty well. But I think those two will be the flagships. And when the new ones come out, the new flagship, that performance will become either the next tier down, like the 80 classic. We're going to keep seeing what we saw this time. So you're going to see the 6080 be probably somewhere between the 5090 and the 5080. So it's going to increase over the 80 class card, maybe match the previous 90 class card, but not exceed it, or just, right in that same ballpark. And I think it'll just be the same thing over again. So they'll just keep inching it up. And the only real new performance that you'll get is going to be at the very top end. Meanwhile, they keep delivering the same performance, and everybody will just barely skip up one tier. So that's unfortunate, because it used to be that, you can get a 1070 would be like the 980, right? It would be like an 80. It would be a whole class jump up instead of just that 80 to barely faster than the top tier. And then, you're looking at the 5070s, and it's not even beating the 4070 Super in certain instances. So they're not even doing a gen over gen, just straight across the board. Yeah, it's clearly better type of deal. It's like, okay, this one's a little bit better, this one's worse, and this one is kind of just doing its own thing. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. Hopefully things kind of shift and make a turn for the better, and we start to see more powerful hardware come out. I don't know what the pricing is going to be to go with that, but I think it's something that because I know AMD and NVIDIA, everybody always gives NVIDIA shit for focusing on AI, focusing on, the more commercial side of things. But at the same time, AMD would do the same thing if they could. I think if they didn't have that Xbox deal or Xbox and PlayStation where they use the AMD architecture for the APU, I think you'd see a lot more focus on Epic and their, commercial sector there. So I wouldn't put it past them. So if they ever had an opportunity, I think they would just take it and run. So with that, that's kind of where I'm thinking about the market right now. It's kind of cooked. Prices are crazy. Performance gains are not there. And it just seems to keep repeating. So this is like the second generation of the same. I like the 5090 though. Even though if you could take price out of the equation, I really like the performance that it gives and that it offers. And I think that it is really the first true 4K card. So there's been cards that play 4K and play 4K well. But I feel like this is an actual 4K card. Like this is like, you could do max settings on just about everything, unless it's like one of those crazy new games that aren't optimized. But for me, like going into Call of Duty and getting 300 FPS at 4K is just, I don't think it was ever something I would ever think about. Like 120 would be like, everything's golden. Then I got 200 on a 3090 Ti, and I was like over the moon. I was like, oh, this is fantastic. Then the 4090 was like 240, 250. And now you're pushing 300. So if you have a high refresh 4K monitor, how much better can it be, right? All right. So my battery's dying, but I'll catch y'all on the flip. Y'all be easy.